Season 6 of the FNRad Snowboard Podcast is presented by Vans. Before we start this season, I'm going to be launching a new feature called Side Hits. Thanks to Steven for the idea and the name. It's going to be quick interviews with legendary guests like this guy, Jamie Lynn. Let's just start with the LibTech Acme and that face graphic, because it's from that brochure I was talking about with Henry Hester and Randy Copeland, which is like this hilarious propaganda.
It's a great piece of media marketing material.
One of the best. Yeah. And on the cover of it is this board with the, I don't know, what would you call that graphic? Fire face?
Yeah, kind of a puking fire face. It was something that that board came about with me needing extra credits to graduate from high school.
Rad.
So I found out that I could get an on-the-job training credit if I went up to LibTech up in Seattle, up to Mervyn, and did some sort of job. I didn't really know what to do or what was even available. But when I got up there, Pete Sari and Paul Farrell, who was kind of helping with, he was working at the factory but starting to be more of a team manager, said that if you want, you could go and help Nick Russian upstairs in the art attic. And he was up there with a heavy-duty gas mask respirator on, dealing with toxic screen print inks, pouring dollops of different colors on the tip of a top sheet material, and using a squeegee to just smear these mix of colors down the top of the board, and that went into a stack, and those stacks eventually went into manufacturing where they became the top sheet graphics. And every 2 or 3, maybe 5 or 6 top sheet graphics, Nick and I would do something for ourselves. We'd throw, I think I did a cat in the hat. I did a Native American totem board.
Wow.
That came off the design, and that Olson had a surfboard sitting up in the corner of his kind of creative art shack, and it had a native totem drawn on it, and I just kind of replicated those shapes and made an MC. There's an MC with some Native American artwork on there that's freestyled, and that's where Nick was doing. You'd throw in like a lot of his Rocky Horror Picture Show stuff. That was kind of that era.
Yeah.
Board graphic period. And by doing those top sheet graphics, I think maybe Pete asked me, hey, if you got something drawn up, we're looking for an Acme graphic. And so I think I was probably, 10th, 11th grade in high school, freshman or a sophomore, and just started working on it at school and, on the weekends or whatever, drawing up just some little sketches or whatever.
Had you ever drawn anything before that?
No, not necessarily for any graphic job.
Right.
Nothing like on my own. I didn't have an art setup or anything. It was just kind of grab a piece of paper and a Sharpie.
Yeah.
That I stole from art class or whatever. And,
yeah,
and
totally.
drew it. And then took it up there on a Friday. And then I think I just did the line work. I don't even think I did any of the fill or any of the coloring of it, but that black line art they filled in with some color and printed it up for a top sheet, and it really truly became my very first board graphic that I've ever been a part of.
Blows my mind, because I know that board, and I would have had no idea until you said it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, there's some elements there, because you could tell a Nick Russian too, right? Like when you see his graphics.
Definitely.
Or a Perillo. When you see a Perillo, you're like, oh, that's a Perillo. And that's the humble beginnings of Jamie Lynn art.
That was probably 89 or 90s, early 90s.
Yeah, because that brochure was 93, 94. No, 92, 93.
Okay, so it was probably 91 is when I painted it. And then I was like sophomore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I graduated in 92.
And then did you have creative design over your own top sheet right from the get-go for your own pro model?
Yeah, they definitely gave me the option to come up with my own graphics.
Cool.
And in the early days of graphics, our banker, finance guy, this guy, Randy Copeland, he also owned a printing company called Printing Control. So all of our graphics were printed through his printing company, but it was limited to, a 4-color offset print. And I didn't have any idea or concept even what that was, So he had some night courses going on as far as like courses to learn printing and offset printing, 4-color process printing at his workplace after hours. So he gave me the opportunity to go to a couple of these classes and try to learn more to help direct the artwork that I was doing to better fit and apply to a board graphic. So after about a week of taking these courses, during this time, Mike Olson was kind of figuring out how to translate, like, the kind of art that I was doing was really watercolor, very vivid colors, and a lot of, watercolor feel is always a hard thing to translate with any kind of printing.
Mm-hmm.
But while I was taking the courses trying to figure out how to print my board graphic, Olson got a hold of, I think, Paul Schmidt, and Paul had some new boards that had came out that had this beautiful full-color picture graphic with a process called sublimation. So, as I'm trying to figure out how to print these things, Olson goes and gets 3 test skateboard top sheet graphics and sonic welds them together into a usable top sheet for a lamination test, and gives it to me on this MC, and it rode amazing. It was like so much damper than the other top sheet material that it rode like it felt like a tank where I could go through anything but was still flexible and torsionally perfect. But in that process of figuring out that graphic, we had done a test graphic of an octopus. We probably printed them up, probably 4 or 5 of them, just as kind of just a test run to see how it would look. And the results were not so good, and I was thinking, how are we going to pull this off? And then out of the blue, Mike comes up with this sublimation technology, and that ends up being the first board graphic of mine in 94.
Where did the whale and octopus come from, like, idea-wise?
I had a 3rd grade teacher named Miss Eggleston.
Nice.
She was on Vashon Island, and I remember her curriculum being, we read The Underground Railroad by Harriet Tubman.
Rad.
And she taught us about whales.
Cool.
That's what I got out of my 3rd grade year in school. But she was an awesome teacher, and she would take us out in the hall, and she would walk out 100 feet, and we'd tape it, and we'd go, that's how big a blue whale is. And, whales weigh, she'd take us out in the parking lot, and she'd show us a Volkswagen Bug, and she's like, the average humpback whale weighs about as much as this Volkswagen Bug here. And just, all the different kinds of whales and what they ate, plankton, and just the whole their environment. And we watched a lot of like National Geographic style movies about whale song, and in those visuals I was really like just seeing a whale underwater, and the gradation from the light near the surface to the darkness of the depths always kind of gave me this kind of intriguing feeling of just coming from light into the dark, and then having the whale kind of get picked up by the light coming in from the surface. I always thought that was a beautiful aesthetic. So that's where the inspiration, I think, came from. That first whale graphic was.
Did you have to do 10 or 20 different whales before you settled on the ones that you picked, or was that the first go at it?
It was the first go at it, just because I
Wow.
didn't know any better. I didn't know you could do thumbnails or sketches. I just thought, okay, this is it. This is one panel, and I'm just going to see what. And I hadn't really worked too much in the medium that I tried it with, but I was working with like a tempera watercolor.
Yep.
And some illustration board, like a cold press illustration board that you could go back over and not tear up the paper or the surface that you were working with. You could move different colors over it without it deteriorating.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, and then the I remember the Octopus having a similar vibe. Like the two boards really did go well together. There was there a center graphic that had like a border around the outside of it?
Yeah. I don't know why that first year had like so many. There's like 2 or 3 randoms.
Yeah.
In there. There was like the whale graphic that was like the one.
Yep.
But then there was like a Japan octopus version.
Yep.
But then there was this like a face that was exploding into birds and swirly stuff. Like that was one of the first year graphics, but that one really doesn't really get much.
Yeah.
You know, and then there was another, the mini version, the small board, had a guy, cat, and a bird drawing that I'd done, and it was kind of boxed in this frame, positioned kind of off on the whole board. And I forget about those.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Those are kind of lost in obscurity sometimes, but really, you know, I worked on those just as much as I remember working on the whale graphic and the octopus graphic. But I still think back about why, and I couldn't tell you.
That's a lot of art for one kid first go at designing snowboards. I mean, the story of LibTech's graphic, the very first one with the skeleton cat. Or was it a skeleton before it was a cat, or was it the skeleton cat?
It was the skeleton before the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just such a classic story of Mike and Pete's, you know, oh, you say we can't use this? We're going to put it on every board. You say it won't sound great because...
It just fueled their fire of just like, you know, tell me I can't do something again.
Yeah, please.
And then allow me to prove you wrong.
So that era, the skeleton era, lasted a year or two, and then it was that Acme and that the painted top thing was going on with the doily print top sheets.
Yeah, and then Matt Cummins came out with a couple. He did the tree graphic, and there was a couple offshoots of that, and then it kind of transitioned into the Radical Rick era, which was amazing.
That's that same year, right? Like,
yeah.
So he's having the guy who actually drew Radical Rick for BMX Plus draw that graphic for his base. Is that right?
You know, I'm not sure if it was, what was that guy's name? It wasn't Bob Harrow. It was Damien.
Yeah.
Damien, yeah. I'm not sure his last name.
I remember his signature from the magazine.
Yeah, that's how I just flashed on it, Damien. So I think it was inspired by a Damien original, but it was Sean Donnell from Bend, Oregon, that came up and did the Radical Rick. He did the van looking over the surf.
Yeah.
Like, he did a lot of really incredibly historically important graphics.
And I think those graphics happened at the same time as the whale, right? Like I think it was.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I transitioned out of like writing a Radical Rick into like kind of the same year. I might have split one, got it halfway through.
That was like TB2 or something, right?
Yeah.
That was great.
That was like the first super park up at Squaw. I mean, that whole session, my God, I can't tell you how amazing it was to be a part of that. You know, to watch everyone that was there just throwing down amazing stuff, and just fun to be a part of it, where everyone was amping and juicing off one another. Noah and AV and Roach, and it was really cool.
That's incredible.
Good session.
That's incredible. So did you do every board graphic for your board from that time straight through? Yeah,
essentially. I think maybe the second year I got help with one of the the script on one of the smaller boards.
Yep. Yeah.
By a woman in Portland named Miss Mickey.
I remember that script. Yeah, that was badass.
Yeah, and there was one that was like a mandala tree. I don't know if you ever remember that one, but she drew that mandala tree. It was just kind of like this mandala-inspired tree of life.
That was after the Buddha Cat board.
Yeah, right around those first 2-3 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Buddha Cat board. Did you know that Peter says that he was just trying to do your board when he did the rainbow board? Because remember, you had it was like brown with a rainbow, same year as the Buddha Cat. Yeah. And I think
it's like the hibiscus graphic.
The hibiscus graphic, that's it. And he was trying to do the kicks, those flop kicks from that it was an adaptation on not really the MC kink. It was a flop. It was a different thing.
Yeah, it was a different little kink, but it was a derivative of what MC had done with that kink nose, which was groundbreaking in itself.
Yeah, yeah.
He just wanted to jib everything and freestyle wall ride stuff,
Yep.
Do log pole jams on logs. Like, that's really, I remember him saying that at the time. Like, I just want to be able to freestyle on everything.
That's right.
Not having your nose or tail jam you up from getting down.
And then you had like a smooth take on it. That I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember looking at that curve being like, wow, this is it. This is what I need to have,
Yeah, I mean, it was such a, I don't know, the reality of that, you get it in powder and it becomes such a snowplow. Or it would flip so much snow and do like a rooster tail thing and like corn.
Yeah.
You're throwing up this massive rooster tail behind you and just depositing snow in your back pockets.
Yeah. So imagine Peter's disappointment when he says, like, I think he just tells them what he wants, right? He's like, it's got to flop over like this. And then he gets that low profile Division 23 with the, it's got barely any kick to start out with. And then it's just got a little nick on either side.
Just a suggestion.
A suggestion of a bit of a floppy kick. But
what an awesome board, though. What
oh
an
my God.
Board.
It worked, right? Yeah.
We all saw him do such amazing things with that equipment.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah. Were you guys close at that point? You guys ride together?
Really never. Like early Washington Northwest Series days, we were all kind of in different cliques.
Sure.
I definitely had the guys that I grew up with and rode with from Auburn. We had our crew, and FGHC was our moniker. It was Ford Granada Hardcore. We had a friend Dylan that had a 76 Ford Granada, and we just stickered the crap out of it, painted FGHC on the hood.
Rad.
Drove it up to Seylynn Park multiple times with skateboards and the ski racks and hash in our metal pipes stuck in the foam of the ski rack, and probably acid underneath the grip tape.
That's a pretty good move.
But yeah, I mean, it was...
Kind of bringing sand to the beach, though. There would have been a lot of drugs up here in those years, too.
We would go straight to Granville Street and get some hash and go to the beer and wine store down by Seylynn and grab a couple of flats of beer and just camp out at the park throughout the weekend. And
what a cool park.
We were in hog heaven.
It's seen some history, man. I think it was built in 79.
Yeah, so amazing. I watched the movie.
Oh, did you?
History. Yeah,
I'm so dumb that I haven't watched it.
One continuous pour.
Wow.
Never intended to be pumped back up.
Right.
The designer thought it would just like drain into the toilet bowl at the end and just continue doing circles until you lost momentum.
Yep, that's what I did for years, man.
And really the kind of like it takes, you can do it on modern equipment, but I'll tell you what, 169s with some soft PAL bones, wheels was really great equipment for getting down and then back up. With hard compound wheels and smaller trucks, it's a little bit more challenging just because it's such a rugged surface now. You definitely need a more contact.
Yeah, I need to follow someone. Like, I can't pick up the line on my own. I need to see somebody do it. There's like a certain line over that first hump that puts you over the,
Yeah.
And who would have been down there when you guys were driving up back in the day? Would it have been
I met
Kearns
Dave
and those guys?
Boyce.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Him and Rob lived near there.
Yep.
And Dave would come down and he would bring us like stuff out of his mom and dad's pantry.
Oh my God, that's
Drop us off soups and like top ramen noodles and
amazing.
I mean, macaroni and cheese. Like
yeah.
And this was in '87.
It's amazing.
Wild. And 86, I think, was the contest that was up there. And we went, as soon as we saw that, we were just like, okay, that's a skate park.
Mm-hmm.
There was no skate parks anyplace else. That was the only one that I had ever seen or ever known about. So, I ended up meeting Dave there, and like, he was always cool and really cool reconnecting with him later on through snowboarding. And then I met Sean Kearns there first time.
Sick.
And he showed up. It was a wild story. I'm not sure if my facts are correct, but we were skating, and Sean and his buddy turned up, and his friend had like this one-piece coverall suit that was, he used packing tape maybe for a belt, and just, little, like, not your usual attire, but nothing to, like, sweat at all. It was like awesome individual coming to have fun, doing what we all love to do. And for some reason, there's another guy there that started flipping this guy's shit for how his get up was, and Sean wasn't standing for it. Sean was like, "Hey man, what are you doing? You're vibing my friend out. You're calling him names. You're like fucking with him. Fuck off. Get out of here. What are you doing?" So these guys end up fucking beefing, fighting, and they fought. And Sean fought this guy for, it seemed like forever. Like, they would fight and get tired, and they would stop, take a break, catch the breath, and then go back at it and just keep fucking battling until finally this guy got his ass kicked, and Sean, told him, "Hey, get the fuck out of here, man. You're fucking, there's no place for that here." And I always thought, wow, man, I didn't really know him. I just, "Hi, my name is Jamie. Hi, my name is Sean." That was it. And I always thought, leaving that scene, it's like, wow, what a fucking friend. What a fucking great friend. Like, Sean was a champion. He just stood up for his homeboy and fucking fought, would die for him, fought for his friend that couldn't. His friend wasn't big, wasn't strong, wasn't like, couldn't stand up for himself. And here comes Sean and just goes, "You know what? Fuck that. It's bullshit."
It's unreal that guy's taken that strength of character. You know what he does now? He sits with parents who have lost children. He sits with them as like holding space. Like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely amazing strength of character. And I have the utmost respect and admiration for him as a human.
Yeah, me too.
Just incredibly talented, but, really taking a true belief in what he feels is right and applying it to humanity, and that's very admirable.
And rare. It's super rare, dude. A guy like that. When you're sitting with him, you're watching the wheels turn, and you're like, there's something different about this guy. Just the way that he's, like, the integrity that where he comes from is like totally legit.
Yeah, I'm super proud of him, and it's been too long since we reconnected physically, and I can't wait to someday soon get that opportunity.
FNRad Season 6 is sponsored by Wired Snowboards, Anon Optics, Crow's Nest Barbershops, the Boardroom Snowboard Shop, and Tribute Board Shop in Nelson, BC. Hagen Mitchell wrote and performed the music under these side hit episodes with Craig Williams on slide guitar. Side hits are produced by SIA Productions.